Hi guys, welcome to Alpine Bikes and Glentress. My name's Jake, I'm one of the mechanics here, and I'm going to show you a few things, basic things really, that most people would need to maintain their bike and also to do some trailside repairs. So today is going to be the most basic one of all, and the one we all suffer from time to time, and that's punctures. Inevitably they're out on the trail and something sharp will go through the tyre, or very often it's caused by a jump and you get a snake bite, which again will cut the tube and all air will escape. So first thing you want to do when you actually get the puncture, which normally tends to be on the rear, is a little tip is to just try and gear down to the smallest cog, which will effectively take your chain as far away from the spokes as possible and make it a lot easier for you to actually exit the wheel from the back of the frame. So once you've done that, just undo your quick release as normal, unscrew your little valve. And what we're going to need for this job today is obviously a mini pump, which most of you will be carrying in a camelback, a couple of tyre levers and a puncture repair kit. Of course at this point it's worth pointing out that it's a lot easier for you to actually just put a new tube in, but that's quite simple and we'll be able to show you that step later on anyway. But just to show you how to actually fix the puncture properly, that's what we're going to be doing now. So with the tyre lever, you just want to pop it onto the tyre bead and literally just work it way around. Sometimes this can be quite tricky, but if you can just basically massage the tyre and get it off the tyre bead and off the rim bead, that should make it a bit simpler for you to do that. Right, so once your tyre's off, just pop your tube out. And what you want to do first, this is quite an important step and very easy to forget, is to run your finger down the inside of the tyre to see if you can feel what actually caused the puncture in the first place. If you forget that step, you'll be fixing the tube, put it back in again. As soon as you inflate the tyre and start riding, the offending item will actually puncture the tube again and you're back down to square one again. So when you're at home and you're doing this at home, the easiest way to find a hole in the tube is to actually submerge the tube in the bucket of water and inflate the tube, and of course what you will see is bubbles coming out of the hole. On the trail though, unless you carry a bucket of water with you, which of course most of us don't, the easiest way to find a little hole is actually to inflate the tube and I find a good tip is to actually put the tube against the underside of your nose. Now you don't need to have a big nose like I have, but it does help. So carefully what you want to do is just basically put the tube against your nose and you'll actually feel the air pushing against the underside of your nose. There we go, that's quite clear. That way at least if you listen for a hole, if the wind's howling outside you're not going to hear it, but this is a very foolproof way of finding the hole. So that's our little item there that we're going to fix. So with most puncture repair kits you will be finding a galvanizing rubber, which is the solid you'll be using the solution to stick the patch on, and also a small patch of sandpaper. What you want to do is you want to rough up the area that we're going to be sticking the tube to, the patch to, and that just basically creates a surface that makes it a lot easier for the patch to stick to. There we go, that should do. Just try and take some of that debris away. Now the trick with the glue is to actually put it on and to just lightly blow on it until it actually sets slightly. The worst thing you can do is to actually put the tube on too soon. The patch, all that's going to do is basically move the patch around and make it really difficult for it to stick to. So just a little bit of glue, about the same size as what your patch is going to be, and just lightly blow that until it sets lightly. You can actually see the colour will actually discolour slightly and go slightly duller. That way you know that the glue is setting. That's pretty good. So we'll just pop a tube on that. A patch rather, sorry I keep calling them tubes, they're patches. And depending on the size of the hole, we've got quite a small hole, so one of the smaller patches will do the trick quite well. Just peel that away carefully from the backing paper, trying to avoid tearing the patch itself. There we go, that should do the trick. Pop that on there and then just apply a little bit of pressure with your thumbs and just wait a few seconds for it to set. Now you can actually get patches which are called super patches, which are basically designed to be something that gets you home quicker. They're actually self-glued and you just stick them on, so you actually skip the step where you're putting the glue on initially. They're pretty good to have in a trailside emergency, but they really are just designed to get you home. This one here is actually going to be a permanent fix. Once this is set, it's not going to go anywhere. With the super patches, you do tend to find them slipping around after a while, but they do make it a bit simpler for you to get on the trail. But as you can see, this doesn't take a huge amount of time anyway, and at least then you know your tube's going to be fixed for life. There we go, I'm just applying pressure on that, just waiting for it to set, and pushing down with my thumbnails, just trying to make sure that it's really gripping that solution. You can see you've still got a little cellophane wrapper on the outside of the tube. The patch, sometimes people can actually leave those on, but if you're careful you can just pull them away without actually pulling the patch with it, and it just makes it a little neater. Again, just push those edges down when you're pulling that back in the cellophane away. There we go. And that's us done, so that should be fixed now. So all we're going to do now is keep it partially inflated. This makes it a bit easier for you to go back into the tyre again. Not too much, because it's going to make it harder getting the tyre onto the rim bead, but just a little bit of pressure in there should be fine. Right, now another top tip from the mechanics is if you can actually line up your logos in the tyre with the valve hole, what that means is it'll make it a lot easier for you next time you have a puncture to actually find your valve. It's a tip that racers have been using for many years, and you can imagine in a muddy race, when everything's covered in mud, it just makes it a lot simpler finding that valve when seconds count. Of course, again, just look at the tyre rotation, which normally is printed on the side of the sidewall, and that should show you which way around the tyre needs to go. So we're just going to line up those logos with our valve. Pop it on one side. There we go. It's one side on. Pop our valve through the valve hole and just push that into position into the tyre. There we go. So what you want to do now is really starting at the valve, just basically keep pressure on one side and just run your fingers all the way around the bead and just lightly get that tyre onto the rim. Now at this point it's good to avoid using a tyre lever to get it back on again. I know some tyres are quite hard to really get onto the rim, in fact this one might be, but if you can avoid using a tyre lever to actually lever it onto it, that'll be a good thing, because what you can actually do is you can actually end up pinching the tube again at this stage, and again you're back down to square one again. So if you can, just try and massage that back onto the rim bead. What really helps is actually to go around the tyre and actually try and push that tyre back into the deep cavity on the inside of the rim. It's what they call the rim bead, the bed rather, and that basically just ensures that the tyre should just slip on quite easily without having to use tyre levers. There we go. Another tip is never ever put the little lock ring on until you've actually inflated the tyre. A lot of people will actually now put the lock ring back onto that, but what that means is when you start inflating the tube, it'll actually rip against that valve. You can actually rip the valve right off the tube itself. So always leave that free moving until you've actually got the tyre inflated to the pressure. Right guys, so putting that back in the frame again, remember that you've actually geared down to the smallest cog in the beginning. So what you want to do is just line that small cog up with the chain and just carefully pull back the derailleur. And there you go, just pop it in position, simple as that. And obviously remember to do the quick release tightly. And that's you done. Happy trails.